Up next on The Way of the Renaissance Man, talking freedom, economics, and passion with a French firebrand.
Welcome to the Way of the Renaissance Man podcast. This is a show about ideas, personal empowerment, and celebrating the rational life. Our goal is to help each other discover the tools needed to better focus our minds, integrate our thoughts with actions, and live the lives we really want. I'm your host, Jim Woods.
In this episode, Jim speaks with one of his favorite economists and writers, Veronique de Rugy, Senior Research Fellow at the Mercatus Center at George Mason University. She's the author of a weekly opinion column for the Creators Syndicate, writes regular columns for Reason Magazine, and blogs about economics at National Review Online's The Corner. Her work has been featured in a variety of media outlets, including the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, CNN, and Fox News. Ms. de Rugy received her M.A. in economics from the Paris Dauphine University and her Ph.D. in economics from the Pantheon-Sorbonne University. In this interview, you'll discover why Veronique is one of Jim's favorite free market advocates and why he thinks her infectious passion in caring for this subject sets a perfect example that every Renaissance man and Renaissance woman can learn from. And now, here's Jim's conversation with Veronique de Rugy.
I'm here with someone that I admire greatly, someone who is one of my favorite financial or economics writers, freedom advocates, and I'm pretty sure that I can get the name right because I had a few years of French in high school. So, Miss Veronique de Rugy.
Yes. Exactly.
Is that good?
Yes.
Okay, so the French paid off a little bit.
Yes.
if it did only that.
You roll your R's in a way that makes it prettier than what it is.
Yes. The French language is a pretty language.
Wow, thank you.
Now, you're originally from Paris, correct?
Yes, from Paris. I was born in Paris, yeah.
You're born in Paris. So how...
Not this Paris.
No.
Paris
Yeah, well, we're in the Paris Hotel in Las Vegas at this year's FreedomFest. And, it's not the real Paris, but...
Yeah.
They try to make an American version of what it seems like.
I actually am enjoying the fake Paris.
I like this hotel.
Yeah,
it's a fun hotel. It's a fun place to be. But I think it's also because we're here at FreedomFest,
yes, exactly.
And we're, everybody's kind of excited about things.
Yeah.
Now, when it comes to excitement, passion, there's nobody better than you on that front in terms of you're like a firecracker, delivering ideas out there to the world. And I love that because when I see you in action, I know that there's somebody there that cares about what she's talking about.
Well, I'm glad to hear this. I think I was born this way. A lot of people ask me, where did you get all this energy? And I'm just like, well, I guess that's really how I've always been. Ask my parents what it was me as a child. But it's also, I really am passionate about free markets. And it breaks my heart the way things are going right now. And I moved to the US from France precisely because I didn't want to be in a country that is just everything that doing the opposite and has been doing for years of what I truly believe in. And this, my passion, it's just I want people to understand, and sometimes I'm horrified. The people who work with me will tell you that when I'm in a fight for something that's happening in Congress, and I've been fighting for the arguments, and when I feel things are going the wrong way, I'm anxious. I'm physically anxious. I care about that stuff. I want to leave a better world for my children, but not just for my children. It's all of us. We're all better off. And there's just one way. There's actually one way, and it's the way that gets the institutions right, get the government, most of the government out of the way, that trust people, let them innovate, let them be great for one another, which is what actually people do really phenomenally well.
Exactly. I mean, I'm in the same, obviously I'm in the same camp. One of my missions as a financial writer, and also with this podcast, is to get people to see that freedom and responsibility and the production that can come out of that when you take the freedom that you have and put to work the responsibility, you can create great things.
Yes.
You can do beautiful things in the world.
Yeah.
The world is a beautiful place. If you take the responsibility to do that. Now, you're someone who's taken the responsibility to defend freedom, and you do it like a soldier. You do like a special forces person. And I love that about you, because your writing is like that.
Some people say I'm like the French Legion of
yes,
freedom.
yes. You're the TUI rep. And for those who don't know, a TUI rep is a French Foreign Legion's elite unit. So
yeah, I'm much less violent.
Yes, but you have the same passion.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about how you became an economist, a writer on economy. Like, where did you study in France originally in university?
So, Paris, Pantheon-Sorbonne. I was at Dauphine, which is the Paris University system is one, right? It's all public, and there are different numbers for different fields. And I did my first 2 years in Normandy when my parents are, and then I moved to Dauphine, and then when I did my PhD, I went to Pantheon-Sorbonne. But the thing that's interesting is it took me a really long time to become free market. I think the reason why it wasn't discovered before is because when you're in France, no one talks about the power of markets. Really, no one. Very, very few people, and usually they're not on TV because their media don't want to listen to. And my parents, unfortunately, were not political. I mean, unfortunately, at all. So we weren't having conversation very much about politics. When I went to Dauphine, total luck. I picked a course. So this is my third year in college. I guess I will say about my parents, one of the things that was great is I was raised in a way that I don't know how, but it was completely obvious for me that I was expected to go to college. I've never heard my parents say this, but going to college and go as far as I could go. So in a sense, they set me up where I didn't even stop until I got a PhD, and it was just like, okay, I'm going to do this. I wasn't even thinking why I was doing this. It's not great. But so I went to Dauphine, and I had this one professor, one out of a lot, who was actually a raging libertarian. And I remember sitting there and thinking, oh, that makes sense. And it was very provocative. He talked about the price system, and he said, basically, effectively, you pick a wife through the price system, the same way you pick yogurt and stuff like that. And I was like, tell me more. And then I changed track to actually follow another professor who was a libertarian at Dauphine. His name is Pascal Salin, and he was really kind of an intellectual mentor for many years. And then once I was hooked, really in my third year, there was no turning back for me ever.
You took the red pill of free markets.
It was suddenly the world started falling into place. And then when we were in our fourth year, it was three of us. It was my friend Philippe Lacoude and my friend Frédéric Sauté. We met there. We were the three free market people out of a class of 100 and something, right? Philippe left for the US. Fred left for the US, and I was like, there's no way I'm staying here. And that's how I ended up in the US.
They needed their third musketeer.
Yes, and so that's how I left. And because the reason why I was bringing up the PhD is because this was very important, it turned out, because while I can't say I learned all the good economic stuff, really, and mostly my fault because I didn't take too many things too seriously, unfortunately. Young people work hard. it actually really helped me to have this credential when I came here, because when I went to work for the Cato Institute, and it made, getting these jobs easier.
Right. Now, when you came to America, did you go straight to work in the think tank industry?
No, so I came to finish my dissertation at George Mason.
Okay.
And
excellent economics department.
Yes, and I was actually hooked with them because when I was in France, I worked with what they called at the time IHS Europe, the Institute for Human Study Europe, and so then I created connection with GMU and IHS here, and so that's how I came funded, completely private resources. Basically, there are a lot of amazing Americans who actually put money to actually bring people like me and take a bet on us.
Right.
And so I finished my PhD here. I defended it back in France, but then I started working I did a postdoc here at GMU, and then I went to work for the Cato Institute.
They recognized the firebrand passion that you had for it, and they said, "Hey, we need this person on our team."
Well, I don't know. They were always. I mean, I was always very incredibly grateful and lucky. And even, Cato, they were like, I could barely speak English. I mean, I could speak English, but I couldn't write for sure. And they hired me because, it was interesting. I was free market. I knew Tom Palmer worked there at the time. And I was a libertarian, and I was a woman, and so that was appealing. But they totally recognized I had no value. I mean, but they hired me nonetheless. And
I think they've changed their mind on that one.
But I think, and that's how I took up. And imagine you're giving a chance to someone like me, who they know my English is what it is. I mean, it's really amazing.
So that's an interesting thing. So you did not. You had English skills, of course, but you couldn't really write in English?
I mean, I could write, but it was crappy.
Okay, so how did you become such an excellent English writer? Because that's one of my favorite things about your work, is your writing is beautiful.
I think what appeals to you is I write like I talk.
Possibly,
right?
Yes.
Like my latest column I have in the introduction, I say, people say this, and I say, come again? I write a lot like I talk because I'm not actually a great writer. And so, but I think that's what appeals to people. I will tell you how it worked. First, at Cato, they had tremendous patience. And my friend Dan Mitchell, I will never forget this. He didn't work at Cato at the time. I would write something, and for several years, he edited everything I wrote.
Yes, a good editor is gold.
And a guy like Dan recognized long before I even started working at Cato, that I was a true libertarian and I was a freedom fighter, and I had and that was an asset. And he's a genuinely nice guy. And so I had so many people along the way helping me, giving me a chance. Think about it. This is a job where the main skill you should have is command over the language. And even to this day, when I get on TV, I'm always worried I'm going to drop S's and do all sorts of things. And for a long time, I actually quite sucked on TV. I have said French words on TV somehow because I've had to spell words on radio interview, true story, so people could understand, because I would repeat this word over and over again and they wouldn't understand.
Right. Well,
Americans are generous.
That's a very beautiful point, because it's been my experience in my career that if you have some passion and you have drive and you have a commitment to your ideas, people will give you a chance. People will allow you to do what you do and help you along the way, because you cannot teach that passion. You cannot teach that kind of internal fire.
But you can't. I will say this, what I learned changing jobs, I love Cato, but it was actually a really good thing that I went to AEI, an environment that wasn't ideologically friendly to me, because there I had to learn to become an economist, not just a libertarian.
I see.
And I also kind of knew that I always needed to compensate my lack of skills, even as an economist and as an English speaker, by working harder and producing more. And even to this day, I try to really write a lot of things, and I write a lot for free, and I'm not picky. I'll do any radio interviews because I think this is how you reach this is how you talk to the American people.
I appreciate that you're doing that with me.
Well, I mean, it's like, that's my pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much. Veronique, it's been the pleasure's all the way of the Renaissance.
Yeah. So, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.